Hi guys. I'm nervous, so yeah, just bear with me. Nice to meet you. Today I'm sharing my experience, strength, and hope. So I'll be talking about my life as a child, my life in addiction, and then my life now that I'm in recovery. So I might just read from the papers, I don't know. Good afternoon, my name is Ashley Taylor. Can we please open with a prayer? God, direct my thinking today so that it is divorced of self-pity, dishonesty, self-will, self-seeking, and fear. God, inspire my thinking, decisions, and intuition. Help me to relax and take it easy. Free me from doubt and indecision. Guide me through this day and show me my next step. God, give me what I need to take care of my problems. I ask all these things that I may be of maximum service to you and my fellow man. In the name of the 12 steps, I pray, amen. Amen. Before I get started, I'd like to thank Jessica for having me here today. I'd like to thank my sponsor and 2 women from the house that I'm living at for coming to support me as well. I feel honored to be here and give back to my hometown and community. Norfolk County is where my struggles with addiction took place. A lot of the people here today are people I grew up with, used with, and lived on the streets with. To be able to see my street family and share my stories fills my heart. My big brother Chris is here today also. I'm so grateful that he can be a part of this journey with me today. I cannot imagine how it feels to watch your little sister struggle with drugs, to see me inject drugs, and to witness more than one of my overdoses. It must have been very scary. I'm sorry you had to witness these things. I love you and thank you for always being here for me. Some of my topics today may be triggering, or some may be difficult to hear. If you have to get up and leave, that's fine. However, I hope you can all stay to hear how recovery has saved and changed my life. My intention today is that you all can hear a message you've been needing to hear and that you can find your own strength, comfort, peace, and hope at the end of this. May God speak through me today. I was born March 16th, 1994 in Hamilton, Ontario. I'm a middle child and the only female. I have 2 older brothers, Wesley, Christopher, and my younger brother's name is Daniel. Growing up was rough. My dad suffered from alcoholism. He spent most of his life in and out of jail. My dad was 9 years old when he shot and killed his younger brother, and as a result, he found alcohol to escape. My dad was abusive to my mom at times and sometimes to my older brothers as well. My dad suffered with schizophrenia and probably other mental health diagnoses that I'm not aware of. My mother was a lot younger than my dad, and in more ways than one because she was mentally delayed. My mom was a victim of sexual abuse growing up. I remember my mom leaving my brothers and I at Jackson Square in Hamilton for hours while she would take off. My 2 older brothers would wander off with me and our baby brother barefoot downtown Hamilton to find food because we were hungry. We would have to steal food from stores or money from mom's purse to get food. Eventually, CAS said we were outsmarting our mom and she could not care for us anymore. Breakfast was plain Cheerios and tap water. Tomato sandwiches were bread slices folded in half with ketchup in the center. We suffered a lot of neglect and sexual abuse. When I was 6 months old, my babysitters would lock my brothers in attics and use pliers to pull my teeth out. To them, it interfered with oral sex. As I got older, abuse continued, not just from my babysitters anymore, but now men that my mom called her friends. My mom allowed them to take turns doing sexual things to me. She tried to convince me that it's okay and that nobody needed to know about the things that were happening to me. I don't know if my mom was a victim to these guys due to her mental disabilities or if she was just as sick as them. Eventually, charges were laid and my mom was charged with neglect and failure to protect. I don't know if my mom struggled with addiction because I don't have memories of her using or drinking. However, while my addiction was taking place, I began to wonder about my mom being an addict too. CAS files that I recently read have confirmed that both my parents did use substances. Eventually, my brothers and I were placed with my aunt and uncle and their children. Because of our history with abuse, we were very needy, angry, and needed 24/7 supervision. Eventually, my oldest brother Wesley went to a group home. He now lives in Kitchener. Christopher went to foster homes, group homes, and eventually the streets in Hamilton, and he's been on the streets ever since. My younger brother Daniel stayed with my aunt and uncle. He's now married with 2 kids and lives in Woodstock. My behavior in school was always resulting in suspensions. I was very disruptive, angry, and had no tolerance for authority. I would get violent with teachers and other students. When I wasn't suspended from school, I was suspended from the bus or spending my days in the office. I was very attention-seeking. I had a bus driver who saw that I was struggling. She had told me if I behave on the bus and at school, she would teach me how to knit. I valued this time alone with her and my behavior improved. Fast forward through the years to being 10 years old, my dad passes away from a massive heart attack due to his alcoholism. Are you okay?
Yeah. Chris, keep going.
I love you. At 12 years old, my brother Wesley was on life support. He was drunk walking on a road and was hit by a vehicle. I remember going to visit him in the hospital with CAS and my brother Christopher. The nurses told us that Wesley could hear us if we wanted to speak to him. It scared me, and I realized in that moment how unpredictable life could be. To this day, I have anxiety over the fact that I could lose my brothers and never get a chance to tell them how much they mean to me. As the older two, my brothers suffered the most abuse, and it was not their fault. They tried to keep me safe, and it wasn't their job to. They were just children. I had such attachments to my brothers, so it was very upsetting when CAS would cancel phone calls and visits. My behavior was out of control when I had to come home. My behavior was out of control after my dad died, and my behavior was out of control after seeing my brother in the hospital. Going into grade 7, the public school I went to ended at grade 6. The grade 7 and 8 students moved on to the high school in Port Dover. We had different classes, different lunch breaks, and pickup and drop off was the same time. For a child like me, this was a recipe for disaster. I had abandonment and neglect issues from early childhood. I was sexualized at such an early age. So when I was 12 years old, I met a 15-year-old boy also who was troubled. We became friends. We skipped class, smoked cigarettes, and would always be in trouble together. Eventually, he was expelled from school. I met a 17-year-old boy next. At 12 years old, hanging out with a 17-year-old is exciting. Looking back now, I can understand how completely inappropriate that is. I met his circle of friends and felt mature in their company, but now I believe I was convenient because whenever trouble found us, I was taking the fall for them each time. One night, this 17-year-old boy told me he was having a party on a Friday night. I told my foster mom I was going, and being 12 years old, of course, she said no. I ended up smashing the screen door and climbing through the window. Police arrived and put me in handcuffs until I could calm down. They asked me about my dad's death and my brother's accident. I told the police I wasn't speaking to them. Growing up in the environment I had, I learned young not to trust the police. I wanted to call my family. My foster mom told me no and instead called my CAS worker. I was scared and I didn't want a new family again. We had landline phones at this time, so I took the cord and tried to strangle my foster mom. Police were quick to intervene, of course. I spit in the officer's face. I had no respect for rules or authority. At 12 years old, I was charged with vandalism and mischief, assault on my foster mom, and assault on a police officer. I was taken into custody while waiting to go to a group home. Eventually, my foster parents suggested that I go to a new school for a fresh start. However, a foster family who I had gone to stay with over the years when my foster mom needed a break had decided to take a chance on me. They did the best they could, and in my eyes, they saved me. All the times I ran away, attacked my foster mom, beat my foster dad with a chair, so many things, they loved me unconditionally. I grew to love them and respect them. They told me when I disappointed them, and they made it known when they were proud of me. I called them Mom and Dad. I went to church every Sunday. I was active in youth group and went on mission trips every summer, and I loved it. I played indoor and outdoor soccer for the Delhi soccer team. I took hip-hop dance lessons at Lisa Nave's Dance Academy. I played sports on school teams and got my first job at Giant Tiger when I was 15 years old. But when I got to high school at my foster home, I found myself in the wrong crowd again. I was 15, dating a 19-year-old boy. I was sneaking out at night to go booze cruising with older boys, drinking at the fair, drinking and fighting in the parking lots of community dances. Eventually, my foster parents suggested that I go to a new school for a fresh start. In grade 11, I attended Holy Trinity Catholic High School. I was still disruptive in my classes and on the verge of being kicked out of school. I was assigned to study in the workshop, a quiet room with one-on-one assistance and supervision. Eventually, I was diagnosed with severe ADHD and placed on medication. My behavior and my grades started to improve. I returned to my regular class studies. I was on the student council as a member of the anti-bullying committee. In grade 12, I graduated with honors and was accepted to Fanshawe College for a child and youth worker program. My 18th birthday, I left my foster home and moved in with a guy who lived up the street. I got money from criminal compensation for the abuse that I went through as a kid. I bought a vehicle and had money put away for school until I blew it all on alcohol. I had a full-time job in a factory and a part-time job working in a deli in Metro. Both jobs were in Tillsonburg. The guy I was with was 5 years older than me. He was a Mennonite and he drank a lot. I began drinking too on Fridays and Saturdays. Eventually that became Sunday, and then every day I was drunk driving to work. But of course I didn't see a problem because I was still working and had a roof over my head. My 19th birthday, my boyfriend proposed to me, and 9 months later I caught him doing cocaine and I left him and moved in with my best friend. I didn't understand a lot of things, like how my dad's alcoholism had passed on to me, how my abuse and neglect made me insecure, afraid, and extremely jealous. I was so jealous to the point I can remember a girl talking to my fiance in the parking lot of a bar one night, and I tried to run her over with my vehicle. To me today, that mindset is completely insane. As an alcoholic at the time, I could justify my behavior by blaming her, and the worst part is I actually believed that she deserved it. By the time I was 20 years old, I was selling cocaine to afford my living and drinking. School went down the drain, I crashed my vehicle, and my drinking was quickly replaced by using cocaine and MDMA on the regular. The man I sold drugs for, we hooked up, and I became pregnant. My relationship with him was toxic and very abusive. By 21, my son was born. When I was 22, my second child was born. It was a girl. I was introduced to crack cocaine. I struggled off and on to stay sober while I was pregnant with her. When I was 4 months along, I was so alone and depressed, I tried heroin for the first time while my son was asleep in his bed. I went down and I woke up in a puddle of my own blood. I'm not sure how long I was down for, but when I woke up, my son was crying and my head was split open, and I felt sad that I was actually alive. I wasn't thinking about my kids. I wasn't thinking about anyone but myself. The abuse progressed, the drugs did too. My kid's dad broke my nose, and the neighbors heard the commotion and the police showed up. They became aware of the abuse, the drugs, and long story short, my kids were apprehended. We lost everything, our home, our friends, our family. We moved to Brantford to a homeless shelter where I got us kicked out for threatening the staff and getting violent with other people in the shelter. We slept on park benches and in trap houses. I sold my body for crack. I hated myself and I hated my kid's dad for introducing me to this lifestyle, for allowing me to sell myself and breaking my nose, and for so many more things. But I couldn't leave him. Eventually I got pregnant with him again, and my third child, another girl, was born. I had been using, I had no prenatal care, because the truth is I didn't care enough. I didn't even want to be alive. The night before giving birth to my daughter, a man had drugged me with GHB and raped me. Because of this, I went into labor the next morning and gave birth to my daughter in the bathroom on the floor of a trap house. When you have a history of selling your body for drugs, nobody believes you when you tell them you were raped. And I was never going to the police, not even for that. So instead I suffered in silence and tried to kill myself 3 more times and was clearly unsuccessful. When people say you can't rape the willing, I think that makes them just as bad as the person who does rape people. No matter what you do for work, no matter if you're a male or a female, rape is not okay, and no always means no. 25 years old, I was charged for selling cocaine and possession of meth. When I got out of jail, I stayed with my aunt and uncle. I was sober for 7 months while selling drugs secretly out of my aunt's house. I relapsed, told her what had happened, and understandably, she asked me to leave her house. I came back to Simcoe. I was smoking crack, living on the streets, and as a result of smoking crack, I was diagnosed with epilepsy. I started to inject meth instead. I was raided again that summer, but no charges were laid because I was not present when the cops came with the search warrant. 27 years old, I was raided again and charged with trafficking cocaine, meth, crack, hydromorphine, and military-grade ammunition. 4 days later, I got in a car accident with a boyfriend after getting mad at him and pulling the steering wheel while he was driving. I had no seatbelt on. We hit 3 trees head-on, 27 feet in the air, and I don't know how I even survived. We landed on someone's front lawn. He was unconscious, and they pulled him out of the car. When the police came, I said I was driving. They charged me with possession of fentanyl and careless driving. There were times in my addiction when I accidentally injected fentanyl, times when I was selling cocaine and fentanyl. I had mixed it with the car fentanyl on accident. I was too high to tell the difference between the bags. I was caught in a gun raid at another trap house I was hanging out in Delhi. I watched girls get beat by guys in masks and batons when they owed money. There were so many things that I felt were so wrong. So many things I saw that I never wanted to see. After seeing things, hearing things, there's no undoing it, no rewind or erasing, but this still never made me change my life. In 2022, I was in London on the run for 1.5 years because I was looking at a 10-year sentence for the raid that happened here in Simcoe. During a robbery gone bad, my partner had been stabbed. Another man also got stabbed. We were both charged with an aggravated assault, and because I was on the run for my warrants in Simcoe, they arrested me. I went into custody, and while I was in, my charges were withdrawn for the raid. My co-accused sat and ended up taking a plea deal. I got out and was back to using needles. My partner Brody uses fentanyl. We became homeless and stayed in an encampment, and in September 2024, just last year, we were robbed by 4 guys in masks. They had 2 loaded sawed-off shotguns, 1 loaded handgun, and a machete, and a satchel full of ammunition. My partner thought he was acting in self-defense and hit a man in his head with a metal bar. I remember the guy asking me to help him, and I didn't. Instead, I punched him. My partner yelled at me to call an ambulance, but I was too messed up that I couldn't even do that. I was running around like a maniac. The man got away and later was found in the park, passed away. I was charged with manslaughter, and my partner was charged with a 2nd-degree murder. This is when I realized my life was out of control. I couldn't even comprehend calling an ambulance to save somebody's life. There was another inmate in London jail who I got into a fight with, and we both got transferred out to Vanier jail. She ended up on the same range in a cell across from me, and I thought she was crazy. I was ready to fight her again because she kept saying that she had to tell me something from an angel above. She was nuts. But when she said the message was from my dad, I had to hear her out. There was no way that she would have known that my dad passed away, and the things she said to me were so surreal. I had no choice but to believe she was channeling something bigger than me. Her and I got close after this. So many times I'd be thinking at night and my brother Chris's voice ran in my head. When I was living in Simcoe, we had an argument one day behind the mall. He told me, "You're not the nice girl anymore. I don't know you. It's like someone stole my sister from me." He was right. I wasn't me, and that broke my heart. But hearing his voice and these words in my memory made me realize my actions aren't just hurting me. I'm hurting everyone around me. So I met with the addictions counselor at the jail, and we called treatment centers. I stayed 2 weeks with Brody's family when I was released from jail, and then I went to a 90-day program in Brampton. I didn't use while waiting to go, but I did have a few drinks for the Super Bowl. I came to Turning Point's April 28th in London. I was 8 months sober when I got here, so I thought. I didn't think alcohol was a problem for me. Substances were my problem. Relapse is a part of my story. I would be 10 months sober this month, but I had to start over with a new sober date because I went out drinking. It wasn't until I was going over writing this speech that I realized I was an addict long before I even knew what drugs were. I had addictive behaviors. I was an alcoholic way before I ever knew it. The only reason I thought I wasn't was because I put alcohol down, but that's not true. What I did was just found out that drugs worked better for me, and I started to substitute. After coming to this 12-step program, I have been learning how to live not only with addiction, but how to put the 12 steps into practice in all areas of my life. The 12-step program teaches me how to take accountability for my own behavior, how to make choices based on what the next right thing is to do, to be open-minded and willing, how to be humble, and that I don't need to control what I can't control. Life happens on life's terms regardless of what we do or want, but our acceptance and how we deal with things can make it easier for us to get through each day without needing to pick up drugs or alcohol. The 12-step program is not religious, but it is a spiritual program. It suggests that we find a power greater than ourselves, a God that you understand. The fact I'm even alive and free today, the fact I'm here today sharing my story and I'm sober tells me I have to believe in something more than myself. 3 months of this program, I have seen so many gifts of recovery as promised in the program. My kids now know that I'm their mom, and I get photos and updates on how they're doing. I'm able to be a support system to the people that I love and who need me. My brother Chris is proud of me, and I'm alive to tell him how much I love him and that I'm able to be there for him in ways that I wasn't able to be in active addiction. I've applied to an addictions and community health professionals program. I play on sports teams, volleyball, baseball, because I'm accountable. I show up when I commit to things, and people trust me and depend on me. And the last promise that I've received is that my manslaughter charges were withdrawn as a result of this program. They say relapse happens when you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. But in recovery, I am able to eat when I'm hungry, which I wouldn't be doing on the streets. I have tools to help me deal with situations that used to anger and baffle me. When I'm lonely, I have counselors, a 12-step sponsor, and ladies in the house who I call my sobriety sisters. Friends that I have made in the meeting rooms, whether it's NA, CA, or AA, and our brothers at the men's house, and I have a bed to sleep in every night. Everything I need, I have. Everything I've ever wanted, I have too. As addicts, we hate change, but we want a solution to all of our problems, but we want to control everything. When someone gives us drugs and says this will help you, we know we can die, and we know the way we feel when we're sick or coming down, but I still take the drugs anyways. That doesn't make sense to me, but if someone comes and offers us this 12-step solution and says it works, you just have to show up, we don't take it, and even though it offers so much more than the feelings of drugs ever gave me. Recovery saves my life every day. All I have to do is wake up and hand my will over to something bigger than myself, get through the first hour of the day until I've reached 24 hours. Then I go to sleep with no regret, no insecurities. I feel calm, I feel at peace, and I feel loved. I have people I trust and who trust me too. I wake up and do it again, and that's all it takes, is one day at a time. Dead people can't recover, but addicts can. Thank you for hearing my story today. Can we please close with the serenity prayer? God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Yes, Ashley.